curtail any form of violence. Then secondly, if you look at the register, the INEC register, we've not audited and cleaned up this register. So we really can't tell and just oppose the reality of numbers of voter turnout until we clean up the register, audit this register, and then we can tell if really we're dealing with voter apathy or actually people are coming out to vote. But I think that the issue around apathy only affected Imo and Bayelsa. When Kogi State, and from I'm sure you followed through some of the clips we released, a lot of women, people with disability, and young people came out to cast their ballot.
And you're right. When you look at Kogi from a holistic point of view, there was a significant enough turnout. But one of the reasons why I flagged the local government areas was just the idea that an entire local government would see the lead challenger polling less than 10,000 votes, right? And I don't know if that's a source of concern in terms of the validity upon not just the process, but also whoever ends up winning in the election.
Well, for us, we're keen about the processes. We're not really worried about the result because someone would definitely be declared a winner. But what process brought this person into office or brought this person into victory? So what is informing our own work is the 2022 Electoral Act and also the INEX guidelines. So yes, we know that there's some disparity when you look at numbers, voting area, local government. But for us, we're keen about one, do they get enough material? Two, did INEC official arrive on time? Three, was there security in this polling unit? Four, is there perimeter security of armed personnel? We're looking at, coalition center, local government coalition center and the national coalition, and when results have been manipulated, it's actually manipulated during collating. And also the use of BVAS for accreditation and also the functionality of IRES, helping to ensure that the process is credible and no one would have to question the outcome.
So just before we leave the conversation, Mr. Lawal, you've mentioned security a number of times. And I mean, we saw what happened in Bayelsa, where in two separate instances, INEC officials were kidnapped. One, in the first instance, the INEC official was released, but presently, officials from Brass local government area are in captivity. And this raises concerns. What do you think this says about the security of the exercise, considering that the police and all other security outfits gave us assurances that they were ready and on top of the matter?
The incident in Brass is really disheartening, and I think that this would cast this is a failure of of our security agencies, but also this is politicians and political actors playing their hands. And that's why I always say politicians cannot interfere in the process. This is them trying to subvert and interfere in the process. But I think that the police and other joint security agencies need to rise to the occasion and guarantee safety of lives and property. Yes, I can confirm that the other INEC ad hoc staff or deputy returning officer have been released without harm. But, we must ensure that security agents are on high alert, because now is a time where people who want to perpetrate the act of violence will strike, because now results are trickling down. Winners have been announced. So they shouldn't demobilize their men. They must be on high alert and wait until maybe 2 weeks after elections before they now look at the situation on ground and then decide.
Well, Mr. Lawal, thank you so much for your time and your insights. We look forward to keeping in touch with Code once the Bayelsa exercise is completed and just getting your general report of these off-cycle elections. Our guest on the show, Mr. Hamzat Lawal, is the Executive Director of Connected Development, our official partners in covering Saturday's elections in Imo, Kogi and Bayelsa.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
The All Progressives Congress APC retains control of Imo State following Governor Hope Uzodinma's re-election for a second term. He won all 27 local government areas in the state, polling somewhere over 540,000 votes. This is in a state that had 2.4 million registered voters. In Kogi State, the APC also establishes a firmer grip with the emergence of Usman Ododo, who is now set to take over from his principal, Yahaya Bello. Over in Bayelsa, as we await the completion of collation, the People's Democratic Party is in the lead with Governor Doye Diri looking for a constitutional second term. These emergences have implications for the political parties, particularly the APC and the PDP. Joining us on this conversation is Jide Ojo, political analyst. Good morning, Mr. Ojo. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nabila. How are you?
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on. Let's start off with Imo. This was the state we saw the elections concluded the soonest. Are you surprised that the APC took, or maybe surprise is not the word, it's really just a question of what are the implications that the APC retains a second state in the southeast?
Well, it doesn't come to me as a surprise unless you're not followers of political development in Imo State. Imo it depends on quality of opposition. That's how elections are won and lost. What is the quality of opposition? How is the local politics? Because as it is said, every politics is local. If you don't have opposition that is formidable, it will be a walk in the park. You know, if you follow Imo State's political development, PDP in Imo is factionalized because of the party primary. And when you have a divided house against a formidable opponent like Kubent, who also have federal might behind him, you don't expect anything less. So, as a student of politics, it's not just about, how did he win, overwhelmingly 27/27, 540,000 votes, while the nearest opponents got 70-something thousand. It's not all about, so many factors. There's something called agenda of equity or something that they had, that power will rotate among the three senatorial districts. So the power brokers in Imo may have thought, okay, let's allow Hope to do second term so that by 2027 power will shift to maybe the Okigwe zone or to the other zone, the Owerri zone. Because there is Okigwe, there is Owerri, and there is Olu. And the incumbent governor, Hope Uzodinma, is from Olu zone. So people may have, the power brokers in Imo may have just thought, okay, let's hope for have this 8 years, and then thereafter power will shift.
So, Mr. Ojo, if I may, part of my curiosity is around the impact, particularly for the parties at national level. And here I want to bring in Kogi State into the mix, right? We're seeing what Governor Yahaya Bello, first of all, show himself as, I don't know, maybe we should say a potential godfather, right? Being able to secure a victory for his anointed candidate. But I can't help but think about the performance of the SDP and the PDP. For the PDP, you can say the performance or lack thereof. What does this mean for the national level, especially PDP? Many people didn't know that Senator Melaye was even contesting for a position.
Exactly, Nabila, exactly. Zino Melaye, if you follow again, is about the rancorous party primaries. Although APC also have that issue, but they were able to overcome. Perhaps, one other factor you must understand is many political power brokers don't want to be in opposition. Opposition is not a pleasant place to be in Nigerian politics, where it is winner takes all. And you could see what happened with the presidency. Since Tinubu became president, how many slots did he give the Igbos? When he was making ministers, there are 48 ministers, only 5 constitutionally approved went to the Igbos. And when they were crying of marginalization, even though he didn't actually say, but you people didn't vote for me. But the coach that I gave them, while he was giving Northwest a lot more, about 15 slots, Southwest about 13 slots. Why was it? That was because we play politics of winner takes all. And you don't want to belong to opposition. And in the case of PDP in Kogi State, Dino Melaye, like you rightly said, was he seems not to have the resources to even contest that election. And because he was more or less alleged to have been imposed by Atiku Abubakar, it's like the PDP stalwart in Kogi State didn't work for him. And more so, he came from a senatorial zone that is not having sufficient political strength in terms of number. It's from Kogi West. And in this, Nabila, you need to understand that in this, Kogi West, despite not having huge numerical strength against the leaders in the Kogi Central and the Galas in the Kogi East, they fielded 3 strong candidates. In the first senatorial zone, you have Leke Abejide, ADC. From the same Kogi West, you have Dino Melaye, you have one Brahmo that is also from Kogi West. So more or less, they divided the votes of the Kogi West. As Leke Abejide was even able to win his own local government, I think Jagba East, he was able to win outrightly. But Dino didn't win any. And many saw Dino as a joker, as a drama, as a joke carried too far. For Dino, who lost out a senatorial ambition, who was voted out of Senate, for him to want to aspire to be president, when obviously to be governor. People don't saw it as this guy. Does he think anyway? He thought maybe it's a dancing or
Mr. Let me. I mean, certainly amusing remarks, but just to wrap us up, right, I want to talk about the Bayelsa situation. We're still waiting on 2 local government areas. 6 of them have been counted out of 8. Governor Diri is in the lead by almost double the number of votes of his closest challenger, the APC former Governor Silva, right? And it seems more likely that the PDP is retaining Bayelsa. What does it add anything? Are there any serious implications for the party to retain Bayelsa State?
Well, I think we should also understand the concept of what played out in Bayelsa. The candidacy of Timi Peseva, former governor, former minister of state for petroleum resources, was not endorsed by the judiciary until very late, barely 2 weeks into this race. He never really knew his fate. INEC had to remove his name from the list of candidates until 2 weeks ago when the Court of Appeal ruled in his favor. And another Court of Appeal even just ruled in his favor on the eve of the election, which was on Friday. So more or less, he was distracted and couldn't campaign effectively. And one would have thought that the lion who lost out vicariously in 2019 will have been compensated by being brought back and given the ticket to run in 2023. Unfortunately, Timi Peseva decided not to play Godfather this time around. Rather, he wanted the seat for himself. And again, it's about performance. And don't forget, Bayelsa is the home state of former President Goodluck Jonathan. Goodluck Jonathan worked for him. He won Ogbia, he won Yanegwa, and countryman Seriake Dixon, who was the immediate past governor, also worked for him. He won Sagbama overwhelmingly. So these are some of the factors that play out in local politics. And you can't blame the devil is better than the
you don't know.
So I think that may have been what played out. And I'm happy for PDP at least. It's 2-1. So even though they were defeated, APC won 2. If PDP wins 1, it's not too much out of this.
Mr. Ojo, it's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you. Thank you for your analysis into the situation. Our guest, Mr. Jide Ojo, is a political analyst speaking to us on the implications of the outcome for each of the state elections on the national body of the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party. In a few minutes on News Extra, we take your attention to Kenya, where we have an update on the case involving the cult-like church that saw about 400 people die. This is in Malindi town of Kenya. This is coming up in a few minutes. My name's Nabila Usman, and this is Now Breakfast.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Babes, now how much be sanitary pad for your area?
Omo, na play we been dey play before. Everybody wey dey this place wey be human being, na pad dey buy take do period. She go bring her wrapper, cut all her wrapper wey she get. They use the do period. Which kind of nonsense be this?
Ijoma, see what you are saying to your fellow woman who is in need. Ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn ti pọ̀ jù.
Now so they use clothes now. Abi we no go chop first.
Auntie Ijoma, what did my mommy ever do to you? It's not fair.
Now if a story be this, My Period, My Pride radio drama, Season 1. Now Sanitary Pad media campaign Power Up with support from MacArthur Foundation
and Radio Now 95.3 FM every Saturday at 10 a.m.
The Financial Services Regulation Coordinating Committee, FSRCC, in collaboration with the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, wishes to draw the attention of the public to the activities of illegal financial operators, IFOs, which threaten public trust and the stability of the Nigerian financial system. The general public is hereby advised to refrain from dealing with unlicensed financial operators who deceive individuals with unrealistically high investment returns. Verify the licensing status of such schemes on this website: www.cbn.gov.ng, www.nicom.gov.ng, www.pencom.gov.ng, www.sec.gov.ng. To report any suspicions of illicit financial activities, call 0700 225 5226, 0800 225 5226, or +234 817 665 6273. Announcer, FSRCC.
Dream Africa is offering the opportunity to dream, is valuing the talents of our continent and supporting its development.
Dream Africa is spreading its authenticity, encouraging its passions, and the pursuit of its ambitions around the world.
Meet Morocco is embodying the best of Morocco and revealing the country's hospitality and openness to the world.
Meet Morocco is taking advantage of an ideal location that connects Africa to the world.
Dream Africa, Meet Morocco is Royal Air Morocco's new commitment to put our country and our continent on the path of progress.
Royal Air Maroc, Dream Africa, Meet Morocco.
Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing you a wide range of local and international news from our news desk. Stay informed, stay updated on Radio Now 95.3 FM.
This is Now Breakfast.
For every news story, there's more.
So we can write the best security architecture plan, but it remains an essay until it becomes manifest on ground.
More detail.
Every time you are doing reform, even when we were doing it 2006, 2007, the question is also that it's not the right time. When will be the right time?
More than just the headline. This is News Extra on Radio Now 95.3 FM.
Pastor Paul Mackenzie has been convicted for running an illegal film studio by a court in the Kenyan town of Malindi. The Kenyan pastor is the man who was first arrested in June this year after authorities discovered more than 400 dead people on his farm, said to have been congregants of the Good News International Church. News of the cult-like church sent shockwaves across Kenya and other parts of the world. Mr. Mackenzie has not been formally charged in relation to the deaths of hundreds of his followers, but the current conviction carries a sentence of imprisonment of up to 5 years or a fine. As the matter continues to unfold, questions remain around the Kenyan authorities' commitment to seeing justice done in the murder of the hundreds of congregants. Joining us on this conversation is Justice Ochieng. Mr. Ochieng is a journalist based in Kenya. Good morning, Mr. Ochieng. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the conversation. Let's start off with what's the general reaction in Kenya to this conviction regarding the film studio?
The general feeling of the public in Kenya is that finally the victims of this heinous act can now get justice following the decision of the court sitting in Malindi, Kilifi County. But the public still feels that the government did not perform its duty of protecting the lives of its citizens. People are wondering how just one individual through his teachings will radicalize this huge number of people and lead to their deaths. So even as justice is being found, or rather being seen to have been found, the people are still puzzled at how the government could not avert these killings.
So can you speak to us as to why the government decided to use this this way? Because we understand it's for operating illegally operating a film studio without a valid film license. And some of his videos, his sermons are still accessible online. One would have thought that the government would pursue a prosecution regarding the deaths and not this matter. Do you know why the government chose this path?
Actually, the government says that the law was now being followed after these incidences, but the government still cannot purport to be giving justice to victims when a number of people have died due to negligence by the state. Actually, these deaths arose as a result of negligence by the state, because we have an organization by the name Kenya Films Classification Board that is supposed to examine such films before they go public. But Mackenzie operated these illegal videos. He radicalized the people when the government was in place and in force, but failed to avert this kind of behavior, leading to the deaths of so many people. So it is still the government to be blamed for all those deaths.
So, if I remember correctly, this was in either in June, shortly after this discovery, or it was in May. I remember the Kenyan government had put together some sort of high-level committee that was supposed to look into the lapses that allowed this happen in the first place. And as a result of that, we saw, for instance, an arrest of an extremist who was purporting to be the second coming of Christ. Where has that committee issued its report? What exactly is the conversation there?
The committee is yet to give a detailed report as to why these deaths occurred, and that is what we are still awaiting with bated breath. The committee has gone to the ground, has conducted interviews. It has interviewed some priests who are associated with the Mr. Mackenzie, and the summary of the report is that it was investigating the circumstances that led to the death of those followers of the Good News International Church, led by Mr. Mackenzie. They were investigating the role that was played by Pastor Mackenzie. They were also seeking to establish, through the Office of the Registrar of Societies, the number and activities of religious groups in the country, including their registration and compliance status. So the Kenyan Senate had granted the committee 90 days, complete its investigations and table a report. And what has been found out is that Pastor Mackenzie indeed was involved in the radicalization of the people due to his teachings emanating from his video film that were also posted online.
This essentially started under the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta. And now you've got President William Ruto. I mean, in many ways, he's still a continuation of the previous administration. Do you get a sense that his administration is approaching the matter of radicalization seriously and making sure that it won't occur again?
Yeah, from the report of the court now, the decision of the court, actually, you can say that the government has really made an attempt, or rather is in the process of trying to quell, or rather to avert such kind of radicalizations, because not only Pastor Mackenzie's church has been affected, there is also another church led by Pastor Ezekiel that is also under investigation to ascertain whether they are also involved in this radicalization process. So to this extent, we can say that the government has shown indications of averting such kind of behavior.
Just as we wrap up, I remember that there were a number of the congregants who were saved, rescued from the farm shortly after a good number of them had starved to death because, of course, the indoctrination was found to be quite significant. Can you tell us about any of the survivors, how they're faring, where they are right now?
Yeah, the survivors were taken to the hospital. Some of them have been treated and discharged, and some of them are the main witnesses in the prosecution of Pastor Mackenzie. So most of them are still in the custody of the state, helping the state to unravel this mystery.
Well, Mr. Ocheng, a big thank you to you for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time. Our guest on the conversation, Mr. Justice Ocheng, is a journalist in Kenya, speaking to us on the latest update regarding Paul Mackenzie, the pastor who was arrested in Malindi town of Kenya for being responsible for the deaths of over 400 congregants of the Good News International Church. And that's News Extra here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. I'm Nabila Usman. Coming up next is the news review. Stick around.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news brings.
People at a spot, and angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has
if voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part.
It is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there yet. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that our vote does not count. If your vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story, and that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
This is Now Breakfast.
Grab a seat, pour a cup of coffee, and join the conversation on Now Breakfast. Let's go beyond the news. Let's talk facts.
First and foremost, the government will never kowtow to the threat of any group to give it conditions.
Let's discuss your opinion.
The politicians in Nigeria don't understand the principle of politics.
The day's biggest news stories.
IPOB has been covered in themselves in glory. There is nothing special about them. It's like a witch cried at night and the child died following morning.
This is the news review on Now Breakfast.
Welcome back. It's the news review here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. It's Monday the 13th of November. My name's Nabila Usman and my guest in the studio is Camry Apollo. Hi Camry, good morning.
Good morning Nabila, morning listener.
Right. A long weekend, and at least for those of us who were tuned in on Saturday, we know that you were a busy bee. What's been on your mind?
Strangely enough, there's quite a lot of talk about the elections, and I know we will get round to that. But my mind went to the Middle East because last weekend, Saturday, I believe it was also Armistice Day, Remembrance Day, in commemoration of the cessation of hostilities in World War I. Strange thing that, actually. The 11th of November, that's the 11th day of the 11th month. That's the signatures were appended to that document, effectively ending World War I at 11 o'clock on the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. So that's quite significant. Since then, the armed forces in the UK, across the world, they've celebrated people who have fallen in battle, subsequent battles, not just the First World War. So it's a very important day for them. In the UK, celebrations this year were marred with protests, both pro and anti-Palestine and Israeli protests. And the outing was quite large, about 300 people, we understand.
300,000.
About 300,000, thank you very much. Huge difference there, isn't there? 1%. About 300,000 people took, actually 0.01%, sorry, mathematics. About 300,000 people took to the streets to express their views, both for the Israeli attacks on Palestinians in Gaza, and against that as well. Lots of arrests were made. But here's the thing. I've been doing a bit of digging, and listening to you this morning, it sort of came around full circle to me, because I was very concerned about the medical situation, reading the news this weekend, even right after our short election coverage on Saturday. I was reading the news and my mind went straight to the hospitals. So when you spoke about the hospitals this morning, it came around full circle for me. And I'll tell you the reason why. It's exactly the same reason why you mentioned what you did, Nabila. About 4 years ago, actually closer to 5 years now, I was in hospital. I was on a respirator. I was unconscious for many days in the intensive care unit. I remember coming out of that, going through the healing process, walking out of hospital a healed man, and looking at videos and pictures that were taken by my then cousin and brothers so they could share with other family members who weren't in the country, because they all believed, oh, he died. And it's a traumatic experience. I will be very, very open and honest. I'm still a bit traumatized with the entire experience, because the feeling of helplessness and something that kept on going through my mind. This is when I regained consciousness, but I was still on the respirator because I couldn't breathe for myself. I didn't have the energy to. And what kept on running through my mind was, I'm connected to a machine in a country that has epileptic power supply. It was harrowing. Literally, when I came off the respirator, built up my lung capacity, I was on oxygen for about 2 months. So that feeling of helplessness, I started to think about the people in hospitals, that have suffered attacks, shellings, and so on and so forth by the IDF, the Israeli forces. So my mind went straight there, because I can identify with a bit, because I wasn't being bombed. All right, I wasn't in the war zone. I was in a federal medical center in Abuja. So my mind went there, and I thought to myself, how did we get to this point? You got people fighting for their lives, but now they're not just fighting for their lives medically, they are fighting for their lives physically. And I thought to myself, this has to stop, at some point, so that we can get some clear air and have the conversations we need to have. Now, given, for the last few decades, we've been having these Middle Eastern conversations, but look, the thing with conversation and communication is this. It's not just, we keep talking about this, it's not just about the critical message, it's also about the people who would sit down to deliver these messages. The right people need to be in power at the right time to address the right things for us. Beg your pardon. Excuse me. Thank you. To see something significant happen. So it has to stop. It's gotten out of hand, so I can understand the emotions of the over 300,000 pro-Palestinian protesters in the UK. Many of them, some of them even Israelis themselves. We've seen this around the world. It has to stop. So that's really what took my mind this weekend, Nabila. Very, very sad. There are also unconfirmed reports. The IDF said, look, they delivered 300 liters of fuel to Al-Shifa Hospital, the one you were talking about. They say they delivered 300 liters of fuel to Al-Shifa Hospital But again, these are unsubstantiated reports. Radio Now, we cannot confirm these reports, but it's out there on X. But what I found interesting about this particular bit of information is just about 10 days ago, the very same IDF Israelis came out and said, look, Hamas has got about 500,000 litres of fuel stored beneath Al-Shifa hospital itself. And Hamas is basically taken resources, taken the fuel, taken any sort of resources that are meant for the people and converted it to its own use. That was Israel 10 days ago. So 10 days fast forward, they're saying we just gave them 300 litres of fuel because of the emergency situation. How would you give somebody who you say has 500,000 litres of fuel stored under their hospital, why would you go and give them another 300 litres? What's that going... You get... So there's a bit of a, misnomer there. Again, this is the information that's out there. We need to get our heads around it. That's our job as a media, to find out what the facts are and let people draw their conclusions.
I mean, there's been a lot of countering from Israel and its Western allies in this particular war. And I am curious as to the conversation after, right? To some degree, we've seen the international actors explore this a bit. The conversations are not substantial enough to get into just yet. But one of the things that experts say is the way the Western world, especially the US, is approaching this matter is likely going to lead to some sort of different world order once this settled. At the very least, more definitively for Palestine. I don't know about the rest of the world just yet. We've been talking about a new world order since Russia and China became massive players on the field. But these are also countries that don't seem to have been strategic and loudly strategic in their approach to this situation. So I do wonder if you think that we really will see a more confident global south, or a more resistant global south to the wishes of the US and its allies.
Well, it's clearly happening, Nabila, and the New World Order, you are correct, it's been referred to for a number of decades now. I think, in my humble opinion, the New World Order is that the world has found itself, or will continue to find itself, in a constant state of dynamism. You're going to have constant change and shifting parameters, whether they be economic, whether they be political. We are in a constant state of dynamism right now. The world is not as clear-cut as it was, let's say, 100, 150 years ago. There was night, there was day, there was black, white, there was this, that, the other. Nowadays, things are a bit more intertwined and interlaced, and I think that constant state of dynamism is what I refer to as the state of being in a new world order. It's a perpetual state for now, at least anyhow. And I think it's going to be up to nations to find where they fit within any particular conversation they find themselves in. Up to nations, especially like Nigeria, we keep referring to, for example, our foreign policy. Many have said, look, this policy of non-alignment is no longer effective for a developing country with over 200 million people, because these are some of the factors to consider. Some people would say, look, we need to tie ourselves, all right, to the petticoats of any of the global giants, and there will be good days, there will be bad days, but at least we're going to see some definitive growth and progress, albeit accompanied with, again, some hiccups here and there. So yes, the New World Order, I think, is a constant state of dynamism we find ourselves in. We just need to look out for ourselves in every single little negotiation and deal. And I think it makes the jobs of our foreign affairs and diplomatic corps a bit more tasking, because again, things are not as clear-cut as they were, let's say 60, 70 years ago, all right, pre-independence.
This move towards, or move out of the NAM bloc, the non-aligned movement bloc, right? Because we're not the only country that has retained or insisted on it. In fact, I think to the Russia-Ukraine conflict and how Finland and Sweden left decades of essentially non-alignment, not being a part of a military bloc, to apply for NATO membership. In Nigeria, what do you think the turning point will be for us? Who do you see spearheading that conversation to push us and convince us that we should align ourselves somewhere? I
think commerce, economics will determine that. I like to believe wars nowadays are centered predominantly around economic resources. Countries have a responsibility to their ever-growing population, their ever-growing needs, and their evolving ways, and so on and so forth. It's their responsibility to meet the needs and demands of their people, as well as grow their markets, improve their, livelihood, and so on and so forth. I think, again, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a matter of economics. And Africa can be on the front foot. It can be on the front foot because we possess a very, very significant part of what we need to improve the quality of life, be it that's our solid minerals, our youthful population. So we've got all these positive factors in place, but we simply need to have a plan and be able to harness these resources to that end.
All right, so look, if you're just joining us, it's the news review here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we are heading up to the headlines at the top of the hour. But here's what to expect on the other side. We'll be discussing, of course, the elections that held on Saturday. Bayelsa is still waiting on 2 local government areas, so collation will resume this morning. Also, the president is saying that he will ensure the National Assembly creates constitutional role for traditional rulers. Senate President Godswill Akpabio says Nigerian lawmakers are the most ridiculed. Whether that's in the world or not, Bini, I'm not certain. But we go ahead and we'll also explore comments made by former Governor of Zamfara State and current Minister of Defense, Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawalle, who says his actions are part of what essentially steadied the North, and that's paraphrasing. That and more on the other side of the headlines. This is Radio Now. Stay tuned to your Beyond the News station daily for our up-to-the-minute compact news bulletins from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., bringing you a wide range of local and international news from our news desk. Stay informed, stay updated on Radio Now 95.3 FM.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Across Nigeria, Africa, and the world, this is Radio Now News.
In the headlines this morning, first in local news, APC's Ododo declared winner of Kogi governorship election. Labour Party backs governorship candidate, rejects Uzodimma's victory. TAF Africa says 80% of persons with disability voted in off-cycle elections. Safety concerns, Lagos shuts jetty over safety concerns. In business and economy, e-ticketing in Lagos Ibadan, Warri Takbe train takes off. In showbiz and entertainment, veteran Kannywood actor Samanja dies at 84. On the foreign scene, 300,000 stage Armistice Day pro-Palestinian rally in London. And in sports, Pillars, Katsina United record slim victories over Enyimba Rivers United. These are your 8 a.m. headlines here on Radio Now 95.3 FM, Lagos. I am Nabila Usman. Thank you for listening. The news review continues shortly. Do stay tuned.
This is Radio Now News.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
This is Now Breakfast.
Grab a seat, pour a cup of coffee, and join the conversation on Now Breakfast. Let's go beyond the news. Let's talk facts.
First and foremost, the government will never kowtow to the threat of any group to give it conditions.
Let's discuss your opinion.
The politicians in Nigeria don't understand the principle of politics.
The day's biggest news stories.
IPOB has been covered in themselves in glory. There is nothing special about them. It's like a witch cried at night and the child died following morning.
This is the news review on Now Breakfast.
Welcome back. It's Monday, the 13th of November. My name's Nabila Usman, and this is Now Breakfast on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My guest in the studio is Radio Now's Camry Apollo, and we turn to the front pages of the dailies, starting off with the elections, which take front and center on the front pages of both The Guardian and Daily Trust. Uzodinma re-elected, Ododo wins Kogi as Diri leads Bayelsa. That's The Guardian. And on Daily Trust, Uzodinma Ododo win as Diri maintains lead. Opposition candidates' parties kick. Election rigged, but I won't waste my time in court, says SDP's Ajaka. And PDP supporter killed, INEC officials abducted in Bayelsa. Right, Camry, I mean, you were very much on top of the situation on Saturday. What comes to mind?
I'll be honest, results are hardly surprising at this point, and I'll tell you why. Clearly, we've seen incumbency retain its seat, Bayelsa still being determined, and as you rightly said, the incumbent is in the lead, or was in the lead by close accounting yesterday. It's expected to resume today. And I think one of the reasons why we see incumbency being in the lead is not just the irresistible to our political elites, the irresistible urge to use and deploy the powers of states. Apart from that, there's also the economic situation to consider. Let's not forget, we have reports across boards of vote buy-in, some going for ridiculous amounts of money. 40,000 is, pushing it a bit much. And I think that's played a significant role at a certain extent due to, again, the economic situation. Everybody's looking for how to make an extra bob or two. Many people not bothered whether it's going to be legal, ethical, or this, that, the other. Mm-hmm. It's simply, look, we need money to feed. We've got kids, we've got families, and so on and so forth. Not justifying it. I absolutely condemn it. It's a matter of choice. We need to be more principled. That comes with pain and sacrifice. That's going to be entirely up to us. But clearly, poverty is being weaponized to some extent. The other aspect of the state of the economy and some of the results you see is, don't forget, if you go to rural Nigeria, you see we have a mistake of having these political conversations with a certain mindset, and that is that the electorate across boards, are as enlightened as you are, have the same amount of information, access to information as you do. In many cases, that is not so. Many people don't even understand how governance operates. Some people believe, look, as soon as we vote the right person in power, I can go home and sleep and job done, life will be better for me. But the elections are just a part of the process of governance. So don't forget, some of these people in rural Nigeria, they are swayed by opinion leaders. Nothing wrong with that. Happens everywhere in the world. But the whole point is, if we are able to raise the collective intellectual capacity of our electorates to significant levels, not the levels we are now, then we'll start to see people make better decisions due to the quality of information available to them. So right now you've got opinion leaders who are playing to the political elite due to any number of reasons. Could be ideology, could be loyalty, could be the state of the economy, and they in turn go down and influence people at the grassroots. That's how it works.
So I want to narrow the conversation down to Bayelsa. We're expecting collation to resume at about midday today, right? This is a state with, I think, the smallest number of local government areas in the country, just 8 of them, and they've counted 6, 2 are outstanding. Now, it's not a very good look for any of the actors involved that the 2 outstanding local government areas happen to be where the APC governorship candidate is from. One, Brass, is where former Governor Timipre Silva is from. The second one, Southern Ijo South, is where his deputy governorship candidate is from. Not a good look by any measure, even if whatever has stopped the collation is legitimate. How do we get around this?
Again, it's about political machinations, isn't it? When you hear about violence erupting in certain booths, if you look closely, sometimes where these acts of violence are perpetrated, that tends to be the strongholds of one candidate or the other. So the whole idea is, this is our political brinkmanship, which is it's condemnable, truth be told. What you sometimes find is the political elites go after each other's strongholds, try to render the power these strongholds can give through the ballots to their candidates. They try to render that ineffective by basically nullifying results in these areas. You've mentioned two key points with, I don't have the exact numbers now, but they are significant votes that could be harvested from these areas. So we won't rule it. All right, we won't take it off the table at this point. It's simply to find out what happened, and the onus again is for the Electoral Commission as well as the law enforcement agencies to do a thorough job. These things will keep happening unless there are consequences. It's not enough for us to sit down and say, look, our political elite need to sit up and this, that, the other. We can moralize all we want. It's going to keep happening unless there are consequences. And who has the constitutional standing to apply consequences? It's the Electoral Commission as well as the law enforcement agencies, and we know how that goes.
It's worth saying at this point that whatever the outstanding votes, it's one of two circumstances. It's either the APC, which is in second place in Bayelsa, either they overtake the PDP, sitting Governor Diri, right, in terms of the results once the last two local governments come in. Or the second instance is they close the gap to a significant enough point where questions around cancelled votes can then force a rerun. So these are the two circumstances to certainly watch out for. At this point, I'll call out the phone lines, right? Join the conversation. Let's hear your thoughts across the board, just what we're seeing unfold or what we've seen unfold in Imo and Kogi and what we're expecting out of Bayelsa. 0913 5000 953 and 0901 1111953. On WhatsApp 0809 6822595. On the news review this morning, still conversations coming up. In just a moment, we'll dive into the president saying he'll ensure that the National Assembly creates constitutional roles for traditional rulers. Let's get your thoughts. We've got George on the line. Hi, George. Good morning.
Hello, George.
Yeah, good morning, Adela.
Welcome, George. Please go ahead. Hello, George.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you now. Please go ahead. All right. It doesn't seem like we can hear George. Please call back, George, right? So let's see if we can still catch you. 0913 5000 953 and 0901 1111953. If you can't reach one, please try the other. We've got Shegun on the line. Shegun, good morning.
Good morning, Abila.
Welcome.
Good morning, Shegun.
Good morning. My question is this, and as well as my observation, like regarding the Imo State election, that is Kotima. I know that I'm not from Imo State, I'm from West Southwest here, but the way people complain about the man and that is not really doing well, that's the first tenor. So I'm not concerned. How does he now win the election? Because the people that win the election triumphantly, and it's the people that's complain about him. They are the same people that voted him in. Or can we say that the election is not true and fair? That's my question. And second question regarding Kogi State election. I know that those people, they are in power, and when you are in power, I know you are incumbent, you have power to win the election. So they use some kind of competitive advantage over the opponent party. So that's my own take. So, but the first question, I want the analyst to actually attend to that. What makes Dama still win the election second time?
All right. Thank you, Shegun. I appreciate it. Camry, would you like to give it a shot?
He said who won the election?
Odimma.
What made him win the election a second time?
Yes, particularly because he's heard from people that, he didn't perform well in his first term, and he's under the assumption that these people still voted him in for a second term.
Well, the numbers are the numbers unless contrary numbers are presented. This is how this goes. I'm not in the mind of the electorate, so I cannot tell you why they did, but I can say what the governor says himself. he thanked Labour in the states. Let's not forget, he thanked the Labour unions in the states, and he said, "You have shown me love, I in turn will show you love." So I think it's safe to say he got a significant, some votes, substantial votes from the state Labour unions. As to the other factors, well, every politician's got their strongholds, so he'll pick up some votes there. Are the votes a reflection of his performance in office? I think that question can be answered only by the good people of Imo State, and the ballot box has spoken and have returned him elected. I'm sorry, that's the best I can do. I don't know why people voted the way they do. If it's as a result of, the governor has done very well. Some people might have voted him because he might have been a better option than the other two. Doesn't mean he's doing well enough. So there are any number of reasons people could cast their votes.
I mean, there are certainly other things to consider around allegations of intimidation, voter apathy, vote buying, whatever the case may be. And these aren't allegations that are specific to whoever came out tops in the election. If anything, repeatedly, Nigeria's electoral history has shown that across the board, political parties, a significant number of them, engage in such illegal activity. Essentially, it's now a matter of being able to prove it. Hi, George. Welcome back.
Yeah, Nabella, good morning.
Morning. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Nabella, I want to talk about Imo State election. I am from that state. I'm from Imo State.
Great. Please go ahead.
Imo State is made up of 3 zones. Owerri zone, where I come from, Okize zone, and Olu zone. Both of them, our governor, come from Olu zone.
It's the largest voting.
For the past 4 years, Olu zone is no go area. Even many people from that zone, they have leave their home, come to the zone to come and live. So I don't know if you people can, remember that was those area INEC said that there will be no election during presidential election. So
it wasn't the only place. There were about 40 polling units in Imo.
That's when you talk about solution. We are talking about that's where the former governor, governor comes from. So these are those zones. But I wonder how when they're calling local government, like Oru West, that place is no good area. In Java, the ones that have funding with the Anambra is no good area. So I wonder how short amount of votes comes in than a place that is peaceful over a zone that is peaceful, where the PDP man comes from. I'm not having any problem. This election in Imo State, after speaking to you, I used to call regularly. I used to call my state regularly, and I used to travel regularly. I am telling you honestly, if that election is free and fair election, Governor Okonjo-Iweala can never ever win 2 local governments in that state. I wonder how this happened. Even as I speaking to you, 27 local governments, big and wide, how come before 24 hours have already concluded? Even if you would at the recollection center, the INEC, the chairman of the INEC that's handling the way it was, he said no, he doesn't want to know. Even when other party agents want to make their complaint, he said doesn't want to know. No amount of intimidation that will make him stop work. Right. Is he have to do election?
All right, George.
What kind of election is this? When I look at now, Bayelsa, that is only the 8 local government.
George, let's leave it here. Hello.
No,
George, I need to take another call.
Okay, let me clear. I am telling you the process.
All right.
As far as election in this APC government and INEC, we are not ready to move forward.
All right, George. Thank you. Appreciate it. Camry will respond to you in a moment. Etim, good morning and welcome.
Morning, Etim.
Good morning.
Hi, please go ahead.
What is that your name is, sir?
Nabila.
I mean the man there.
His name is Camry.
His name is Camry.
Okay. People should stop ranting and complaining, because in this country, tribalistic tendency, hatred, religiosity, and what have you, characterized the outcome of determine the outcome of election. The governor, in his wisdom, decided to settle for a woman, a deputy running mate.
Yes.
And in every secular election, women outnumber the men that voted in an election. And according to information, this man was going around encouraging women to go about collecting their PVCs. There must be some funny happenings during the election. And if people say the governor has not performed, they are here in Lagos. These are the same people that will be saying, IPOB is not responsible for the crisis in Imo State, in the southeast. But those on ground know what is happening in Imo State and other parts. So today there is a report that in Anambra State, the young progressive state chairman has been murdered. So when people say Imo State Governor Uzodinma is the one orchestrating the crisis, the killings in Imo State, I wonder, even in Anambra, Abia State, about 70-something decomposing bodies and women's were found near a cattle market. Is it Uzodinma that is responsible for those killings? And there was no complaint from those community body in those areas. Who are those people? And people from that region, they will not ask, who are these people that are being sent to their graves?
All right.
So they will not ask. If it's happening, they know, they will shout. And for this election, the governor, it is very difficult in the Nigerian political terrain to defeat an incumbent. And when you choose a woman, because women are the most victim of a bad governance with their children, so there's a likelihood that the person may emerge, whether you are incumbent or not incumbent, whether you are coming in from outside. And for the Bayelsa, that is Joe and is it a brass?
Yes.
That is what we can always apply this political tricks. Even in 2000, you remember the returning officer from Rivers State, the professor from one of the universities in Delta State, that was the returning officer. He was provided with reading materials, what I mean, it could not read out whether the result that was written by him. So there was we hold the result from the stronghold to determine the result for the opponent from, so that they will use all the results that will use the one from the stronghold to outnumber the one that their opponent. So whatever that has happened, go to court if you are not satisfied with the outcome. The governor has won. It's no longer the Supreme Court governor. People should start calling. There's no governor or president that is not the Supreme Court governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. You were right in your estimation that it's difficult to overthrow an incumbent, whether it's governor, president, whatever the case may be. And as it stands, especially at presidential level, for instance, here in Nigeria, that has happened only once. We'll take one more call and then we'll pause because, the news review is shorter today. We'll pause so that Camry can respond. Dr. Paul, good morning.
Morning, Dr. Paul.
Hi, Dr. Paul. Please go ahead.
People should be very circumspect in their analysis or comment. The sitting governor was declared in Osun State. And everyone did not fall.
Yes, it happens, but it's difficult. That's the point that was made.
What makes it to be difficult?
Some states, I think very few states, Osun, Oyo. What I'm saying is, Dr. Paul, we can't speak outside of the data, right? You're right. There are some states where it has happened, and it's almost
Why is it difficult to defeat a governor that has no performance in the state?
Well, that's a good question.
So it's not difficult. To correct an impression, women do not outnumber men as far as politics is concerned in Nigeria.
He didn't say politics.
Even in voting.
It's debatable. Depends on where you go. But
in Imo State, this current election, the result that was manipulated. There was a time I spoke on local out of every election to several of us. And the right thinking so we say it was not manipulated. The same thing happened. It could be the same. PDP not winning local government.
Well, I mean, Dr. Paul, it's worth noting, to both your point and Etim's point, it's worth noting that we don't have hold on, Dr. Paul, because you're both on different ends of the spectrum. It's worth noting that INEC has not released a detailed breakdown, demographic breakdown of these elections just yet.
There's nothing different.
Either of your points could go either way.
So what I want to say, I've been saying this of the way we conducted this off-cycle election. That is how we are going to conduct 2027, 2030, 2040, or 41. Nothing will change.
All right.
All this we have been discussing every day, this and that. I like this, I like that. It will be like that. Until I personally will say no, whatever is before, because I've been advocating of good governance in this country. How can a government not perform? You bring another student, you take over from where you stop.
All right, Dr. Paul.
If somebody tell me that immeasurable and unthinkable performance from hopeful of them that it should win second term, somebody should call and tell me. Because I'm a grand person in that state. That's a place called Abba and you want the local government. Everything that place built up by the community. Unless when the NDDC came and do some roads for them, and nothing more.
All right, Dr.
Paul. What they're talking about here. All the rural and local government need to tell me hope of. It's just there you see all these billboards like what you have in North Korea. Everywhere, hoping the billboards everywhere.
Let's leave it here, Dr. Paul. Thank you, Dr. Paul. I do appreciate you calling in and sharing your thoughts. Camry, you've got the floor.
Okay, let me just put out this information because, again, it's very important we speak from the data and what we have so far. Nabila is absolutely correct. The demographic breakup of how the voting occurs has not been released. I don't know if it will, and so on and so forth. The information we do have is registered voters. And if that's anything to go by, John, you also touched on this. I will tell you this. Women voters, all right, registered women voters outnumber men voters by more than 50% in Imo State. There are more eligible women in Imo State. This is what the registered voters list tells us, okay? More women have registered to vote in Imo State. How many actually voted? We don't have that information. That's number one. So, Dr. Paul, as to your position on women do not outnumber men, in Imo State, registered voters do. As to casting a vote, we don't know. Now, John talked about Etim, how did he manage to win? That's a Governor Hope Uzodinma.
Actually, I think that was Shegun's question.
Okay.
We had answered it earlier, but it has been a repeated
raised
question.
Again.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, first of all, it's about the zoning thing, isn't it? Now, Governor Uzodinma comes from Olu Zone, which was the stronghold in Imo State. Not strongholds. They had the largest number of voters in time past. But now, Owerri Zone has overtaken Olu Zone with the highest number of registered voters, with over 1 million. I think Olu about 800,000 registered voters thereabouts. Now, also for us to consider in how these elections panned out, we talked about this months leading up to the election. There's the Imo State Charter to consider. Did this feature or was this a factor in the voting? We don't know, but we understand that there was an agreement that Governor Uzodinma would be allowed to finish his second term. All right, and that will be that for Olu Zone, which is governed for about 20 years. By the time Governor Uzodinma's second term comes to an end, it means Olu Zone would have done 24 years out of since 1999, basically. So the Imo State Charter says it should rotate. So we don't know whether Owerri Zone, agreed and stood by that charter. And don't forget, Owerri Zone is where the PDP's Mr. Anyanwu hails from. They have, again, just over 1 million votes. 1 million votes. So we don't know if the charter has played any role in this at all, because we don't have the demographics of how the voting occurred. But these are the political machinations going on behind the scenes that we are aware of, that we need to bring to the table. So I don't think we can sit down here and say, how did he win? and actually be serious. There are lots of things going on. Swaying the female voters, playing the zonal card, these charters. And don't forget, Governor Uzodinma, he does have political structure. That is this, as far as elections go, he controls a significant number of the political structure in the state. The main challenger to that, literally, was the Labour Party, which surpassed the People's Democratic Party in the Southeast, not just Imo State alone, in the last presidential elections. So I think these are some of the things that, were put on the table that resulted in the elections going the way they did.
So just as we wind down the news review, Camry, just a pivot to wrap up this conversation on constitutional role for traditional rulers. It's actually a promise ascribed to the president, but it was made by the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, pardon me. And it's been a recurrent conversation, of course we know this. But I'm curious as to whether constitutionalizing traditional rulers will work when we have yet to do anything regarding local governments and their ability to simply function properly, the closest form of government to the people.
I'll say this. I absolutely agree with Professor Lumumba when he says Africa needs to define for herself what democracy is. I think our traditional institutions do have certain, stand-ins depending on what part of the country you're in. Some people would argue that the traditional institution has the power of summons. If constituted authority gave a directive in certain parts of this country and the traditional institution in that part of the country gave the same directive, some people argue you would see a higher rate of compliance from the traditional directive than you would from the constitutional directive. Again, depending on the part of the country you're from. Let's not use our little bits of the country to judge the entire country. We are different.
Yeah, I was about to raise you one former president telling traditional rulers, Dide. Yeah, there you have it.
Yeah.
Look, Camry, I mean, this is as much of the conversation as we can have. A big thank you for your time and your thoughts. And of course, to each of you who contributed to this conversation, a sparring one, by the way. Always great to have dissenting is not the word, but differing opinions. It's part of what allows conversations to be substantial, so we come to a place of understanding, and from there we build. It's the news review here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name's Nabila Usman. You want to stick around? Aramide Folorunshaw brings you the latest in business and finance across Nigeria, Africa, and the rest of the world.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news brings.
3 people at a spot, and angry mobs decided to burn.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has broken.
If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part.
GDP is not a good measure of development anyways. We are not there. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that our vote does not count. If your vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story, and that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
The news that matters the most is the news that hits closest to home. If it touches your business, your family, your city, your schools, or your safety, we've got you covered. Everything that affects you is our concern. So, we go beyond, getting all the facts and serving you news and information you can trust.
There was 10 million liters of fuel made available at some point, which was not made available at the time because obviously it had to be brought in.
The attack this Gayo village, Keru, and the Takalafia villages today is one of the many attacks.
Radio Now, 95.3 FM Lagos, beyond the news.
We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
Connect with us now via our social media channels. Facebook.com/RadioNow953FM.
We're on Twitter too. Connect with us there and get involved.
At Radio Now 953FM. 953FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram
at Radio Now 953FM. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
News and information go around every second. The ones who deliver it and how matter. We give you depth, substance from the real sources.
I made statements in that regard, and the first point I called was the National Working Committee.
There wasn't any agreement between Bashir Machina and Ahmad Lawan.
The DPO, the Divisional Police Officer who is on grounds there, went there.
Also giving you a more human angle on the events that matter.
They are not people that live in mansions, but they are people that live within localities, and the people are afraid to.
We had so many issues there in area boys. Then we now went to.
Let's cut the convention and rather have a conversation. Radio Now 95.3 FM, Lagos. We go beyond the news.
From the Central Business District of Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, this is 95.3 Business Now.
Hello everyone, as we welcome you to a new Business and Markets Week. It's Monday the 13th of November. I am Aramide Folorosho and these are the Business Quick Takes. Nigeria's official exchange rate is projected to weaken to 1,068.3 naira to the US dollar by 2025, according to a new report by the London-based Economic Intelligence Unit. The EIU report notes that the Central Bank of Nigeria lacks the power to clear the $6 billion foreign exchange backlog and lacks the experience to conduct a foreign currency flight, leading to a negative outlook for the country. The report also notes the continued currency losses due to the large parallel market transaction size. The Nigerian Customs Service has adjusted the exchange rate calculations of import duties from 770 naira 88 kobo per US dollar to 783.17 kobo per dollar, marking the second rate adjustment for the port industry. With the adjustment in the exchange rates, importers bringing goods through the Nigerian seaports will now pay more as import duty tariffs goes up by 12.294 naira per dollar of the total value used in calculating the import duty. The Executive Vice President of the Intra-African Trade Bank at the African Export-Import Bank, Kanayo Awani, says the trade finance institution is working on the establishment of a $1 billion African Film Fund in 2024 to support the continent's film industry, including financing, co-financing with large studios, financing African filmmakers, producers, and directors of film projects. Meanwhile, a total of $1 billion in deals were signed on Friday at the ongoing Intra-African Trade Fair in Egypt. The deals include a $150 trade financing deal done by African Export-Import Bank with the United Bank of Africa (UBA), a $10 million financing with the FDH Bank of Malawi, and a $150 million deal with the Vista Bank Group, among others. The Nigerian Exchange Limited has delisted the entire issued share capital of Courtville Business Solutions PLC from its trading platform, and this follows the approval of the company's application to delist its entire issued share capital and stop being a company publicly listed by shares on the stock exchange. Oluwati Doherty, the director in charge of export development at the African Export-Import Bank, has emphasized the bank's commitment to support agriculture and agro-processing across Africa. Speaking in an interview with Frontier Africa Report executive producer Bosin Omofaye at the ongoing Intra-African Trade Fair in Egypt, Doherty highlighted the $1 billion initiative support with Arise Industrialization operating in a number of African countries, as well as non-finance programs that support women in farming on the continent. Take a listen.
Interested in knowing the impacts, the overall impacts of Afrexim Bank interventions in agriculture and food security. Why include agriculture and food security in the package of interventions for Africa? Why is that very important?
Thank you very much. One of the reasons why we've done this is that if you look at most of our member countries, agriculture forms 70% of the key sectors of that, or the key productive sectors of these countries. So there's no way we as an African multilateral institution supporting the promotion of trade across the continent can ignore the agricultural sector. And we have been very deliberate in our approach in supporting the boosting of agriculture and agro-processing across the continent. Like I mentioned during my panel session, we came up with a two-pronged approach, which will have solutions for short-term and solutions for long-term. Our solutions for short-term is to be able to boost access to critical grains and food commodities on the continent, and we do this through the Africa Trade Exchange platform, ATEX, that Afreximbank came up with on the onset of the Russia-Ukraine crisis, when most of our member countries could not access grains. And through this platform, Afreximbank was able to support member countries access these grains at reduced pricing. And Afreximbank put in place a 2 billion facility to provide financing to member countries to be able to uptake these products. But apart from that, we have a medium to long-term intervention too, and that is in moving us to self-sufficiency in agro production. And one of the key focus areas for us is development of agro-industrial clusters, almost like a farm-to-fork intervention, where we have what we call agro transformation centers linked to agro-industrial parks, and you can have a commingling of a transfer of knowledge and technology from both the off-taker, the anchor off-taker, and the small-scale farmers, where you aggregate them in outgrower scheme, support them with much-needed seedlings that they need, right fertilizers, right crops, soil testing, etc., boost their productivity, off-take their products, take it into these industrial parks, process it, and then you can now export either within the continent or outside the continent. So that has been our approach. And we've supported Arise Industrial Platforms, like I said to you, and we've seen this work. We've seen this work in 3 countries, Gabon, Togo, Benin, and we've provided financing of over $1 billion to support these operating industrial parks, and they are working. $1 billion. And right now we have pipeline projects of up to $2 billion with Arise. And so it's something that we will continue to focus on, because where we want to get the continent to is self-sufficiency in food production, and for Africa to really become the food basket of the world. If, as they say, we have the largest arable land in the world, why are we the ones now importing food products?
Interesting. And finally, where the women who contribute a major component of farming and agriculture, pastoralist farming, coming to the engagement that Afreximbank is having across the sovereigns and the subnational levels across the continent? Tell me briefly.
So one of the things we've tried to do is we also realize that financing is not the only solution to everything. So we've had to ensure that within our suite of intervention, we bring on board policy advocacy. We bring on board market access platforms. We bring on board capacity building support and training. And then we also have brought on board what we call the trade information portal, where we can sort of connect these businesses together. You would be amazed at the power of information, the power of knowledge. A lot of women own business in Africa. Their issue does not have to be primarily financing. Sometimes the issue is knowledge. Sometimes the issue is, how do I grow my business? Sometimes the issue is, who needs my product? Sometimes the issue is, what kind of financing is right for me? And so we have created a bouquet of interventions in form of the trade information portal of the bank, in form of the SME capacity building programs of the bank, that this year trained 600 women-owned SME businesses across the agri and light manufacturing value chain. And we intend to do more.
Thank you very much.
That was Oluroti Doherty, the director in charge of exports development at Afreximbank, in an interview in Cairo at the weekend. So now let's quickly look at a grand get-together evening last Friday in Lagos, which was to celebrate innovation and excellence on Nigeria's Market Street. We'll be right back, everyone.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
The news that matters the most is the news that hits closest to home. If it touches your business, your family, your city, your schools, or your safety, we've got you covered. Everything that affects you is our concern. So, we go beyond, getting all the facts and serving you news and information you can trust.
There was 10 million liters of fuel made available at some point, which was not made available at the time because obviously it had to be brought in.
They attacked this Gayo village, Kebu, and the Takalafia village yesterday. It's one of the many attacks.
Radio Now, 95.3 FM Lagos. Beyond the news.
Connect with us now via our social media channels. Facebook.com/RadioNow953FM.
We're on Twitter too. Connect with us there and get involved.
At Radio Now 953FM. 953FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram
at Radio Now 953FM. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
All right, we'll touch the market prices soon. But before then, we go live to Cairo where Bosin Omofaye is standing by for today's updates from the 2023 Intra-African Trade Fair. The Presidential Forum of the Intra-African Trade Fair 2023 is getting underway right now in Cairo, Egypt, as the biennial event enters its 5th day. We're looking at Bosin joining us now at the Egypt International Conference Center. Good morning, Bosin. It's good to have you on the line.
Good morning, Aramide.
So, Bosin, tell me, what are the key takeaways from all these sessions that had taken place since Thursday?
I think the key takeaways are just about 2 or 3 points. First, Africa needs trade. Second, the continent needs investment. And the third is that the country needs energy that will power those investments and trade. So when you're looking at shaping Africa's industrial architecture in creative arts across the commodity value chain, it's all come together under one single umbrella. So the conference tend to focus on the key 4 pillars that the Afreximbank is pursuing in terms of ensuring that the continent raise the level of its manufacturing, industrialization, economic development, raise the level of job creation, for example, the ability to attract investment capital from within the continent and from around the world. All of this put together are what the conference is all about over the last few days.
Well, Bosin, yes. Let's also look at the Canex $1 billion initiative. How can this be a game changer for Africa's creative industry?
Well, I talked about I just mentioned creative industry. The $1 billion is a catalyst. I'm sure that figure could go anywhere higher than that as time goes on, but it's to ensure that Africa supports the creative arts, intellectual property, support the whole ecosystem around creative art. So it's not just about the creative part of it, but also to ensure that we can put some industrialization on the continent around the creative industry on the continent.
Yes, Bosin, tell me more about those deals that were signed and why are they important?
The deals are important because when you look at the various sectors that they go, $150 million with UBA, Vista Bank is about $140 million. Vista Bank Group is very huge in terms of footprints across West Africa, a bit into Central Africa to North African markets. You have in Zimbabwe, you've got deals done with companies in Malawi. You've got in a few other regions as well across the continent. I'm talking about close to 10 deals already, including memorandum of understanding with a number of institutions that are not really cash-based. So you have companies in Eritrea, you have research and technology with the University of the UNN, which is in Nigeria. So you find that there's a whole lot. Some of these are in cash, some are technical expertise, relationship with the Afreximbank and its various agencies that will help continue to move those pillars that the Afreximbank wants to see move forward very quickly. So those deals are very important. Today's Monday. We've got about 3 more days. So we expected more deals to still be signed before the week-long biennial event actually comes to a close.
Indeed. Let's chat to today's presidential plenary and what the rest of the week looks like at the IATF.
Well, the plenary is about to start in about a couple of minutes, maybe within an hour. As you expect, it's very tight security, a lot of checks in that to be done. The presidential plenary is to see the host country under His Excellency President El-Sisi and his administration had been able to host this conference for the second time within the last 6 years. That's quite an achievement for the country. Of course, Afreximbank is headquartered here in Cairo, Egypt. So this is the home country for Afreximbank in a manner of speaking for the continent. So the presidential plenary is to speak to Egypt on one side, but also to see other countries, delegates, presidents, and heads of government, head of ministries, ministerial appointees, and those who are visiting, to also speak to those very critical area of each country and see the overarching picture that the intra-Africa trade actually presents.
All right, thank you so much, Bosin Omofaye, Frontier Africa Reports and Executive Editor, for your daily live reporting from Egypt. Well, we will move on. Well, let's get to the markets now and getting to see a grand get-together evening last Friday in Lagos, which was to celebrate innovation and excellence on Nigeria's market street. I will be right back, everyone.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
Every second and every minute, something new happens. The news breaks.
And angry mob decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part has
If voters or more people want to be part of that decision-making process, they need to be part of it.
This is not a good measure of development anyway. We are not there yet. We need to counter the narrative of the fact that our vote does not count. If your vote does not count.
We bring you the story within the story, and that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Aramide Folorunsho on Business Now. Top officials of the Nigerian securities market, the Debt Management Office, business leaders, capital market professionals, financial experts, and others on Friday applaud the immense contributions of FMDQ Group to the country's market landscape over the past 10 years. Speaking at the event, the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Lamido Yuguda, commended FMDQ Group for the achievements recorded in its first decade of operations. Let's take a listen.
This milestone stands as a testament to FMDQ's remarkable journey of expansion and evolution, making an enduring impact on the Nigerian financial landscape. As the apex regulator of the Nigerian capital market, the Securities and Exchange Commission continues to promote and champion market development and innovation, while maintaining a regulatory environment that fosters stability and fairness in the financial markets. The Commission diligently works to establish a regulatory environment that enables capital market operators and financial market infrastructures like FMDQ to thrive. Today, FMDQ Group is a promising vertically integrated financial market infrastructure group, delivering seamless execution, clearing and settlement services for financial market transactions. Throughout the last decade, FMDQ Group has undergone a profound transformation, amplifying the group's strategic significance within the Nigerian financial landscape. The former FMDQ OTC PLC transitioned to become a securities exchange ultimately emerging as a formidable financial market infrastructure group that is well known for contributing significantly across the capital market value chain. The group's commitment to elevating the Nigerian financial markets to global standards aligns with the SEC's vision of fostering robust and globally competitive markets. As FMDQ Group enters the next phase of its journey, it is imperative to maintain robust corporate governance, nurture a culture of excellence and integrity, and reinforce its dedication to regulatory compliance and collaboration. We look forward to continued collaboration for sustainable growth and innovation in the future. The Securities and Exchange Commission plays a pivotal role in the development and modernization of the country's financial markets. The Commission will continue to put in place factors that support growth of the market and its operators, such as FMDQ. The SEC extends its warmest wishes to FMDQ for another decade brimming with innovation, growth, and excellence. I wish you many more years of resounding success and a continued positive impact on the financial world. Once again, I congratulate FMDQ on its 10th anniversary.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
That was Lamido Yuguda, the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Well, let's quickly get straight into the trading week that ended Friday, the 10th. The local burst ended Friday on a positive note, bringing the all-share index up by 0.05%. Buying interest in Access Corp, that went up 0.29%. EcoBank Transnational Incorporated, 3.23%. FCMB, a whooping 9.38%. All of these offset sell-offs in JITCO. JITCO was down 0.56%. We've also got Dangote Sugar in the water, 0.65%, UBA 0.24%, and all of these kept the markets in the positive territory, having gained in all the 5 trading sessions last week. The all share index closed 0.93% higher week on week. Well, across frontier African markets, the Egyptian index slumped by 1.65% on Sunday, which is its first trading day of the week, while the Kenya Burst recorded a positive performance of 0.71% on Friday. Here in West Africa, the regional exchange in Abidjan gained 0.27% at the close of trading, while the Ghana stock market was flattish. In Southern African region, the Zimbabwe stock market posted a 0.17% increase, while the JSE in South Africa fell sharply by 1.07% as the trading week came to a close. We'll look at money markets now, where overnight lending rate among commercial banks in Nigeria increased by 90 basis points week on week to 17.6%. And a look at fixed income last week, the Treasury bill secondary market was bullish, mainly driven by market players moving to the secondary market to cover for lost bids at the T-bills auction, which held on Wednesday. And proceedings in the FGM bond secondary market closed the week on a bearish note. The average yield advanced by 6 basis points, finishing at 15.7%. So let's bring in the currencies market statistics for the week ended November 10 from FMDQ Securities Exchange. A total turnover of $678.24 million was recorded at the spot and FX derivatives segment, showing an increase of 25.16% from $541.91 million reported in the prior week. Now, the weekly increase in the FX derivatives turnover was driven mainly by the 53.34% increase in FX forwards turnover, while there was no activity in both exchange traded FX futures and cleared Naira settled non-deliverable forwards markets. Well, in the FX sports market, the total value of transactions was $654.61 million, representing an increase of 24.33%. And if we look at the exchange rate, that's quite important. The average Nigerian autonomous foreign exchange fixing rate was 839 Naira 74 kobo against the US dollar, representing a depreciation of 1.79% by the Naira against the dollar. A quick look at oil prices, which were higher on Friday but are set to fall for a third week as concerns of supply disruptions from the Israel-Hamas conflict have ebbed following demand worries to reassert themselves. Now, Brent crude futures for January were up 73 cents at $80.74 a barrel. The US West Texas Intermediate crude on the other end for December were at $76.40 a barrel, which was up 66 cents. And Brent futures were down 4.9% last week, while the WTI has declined 5.1% over the 1 week period. And the 3 weeks of declines at the longest weekly losing streak for both contracts since a 4-week drop from mid-April to early May. Well, that's the package on Business Now this Monday. Make sure you have a profitable week, everyone. Thanks for listening. I am Aramide Falorishaw. It's bye for now.
This is 95.3 Business Now.
Connect with us now via our social media channels. Facebook.com/RadioNow953FM.
We're on Twitter too. Connect with us there and get involved.
At Radio Now 953FM. 953FM. Like what we do? Share it on your socials and tell everyone.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram
at Radio Now 953FM. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Chris. I'm a trader operating a chain of supermarkets. I engage in monthly comfortable contributions with my insurance company. It gave me the opportunity to inject capital into my business during peak periods and reap handsome returns. I never knew that an insurance company can be that helpful. Kudos to Mutual Benefits Assurance for such innovative and business-sustaining insurance products.
Take advantage of the delightful offers and experience